Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 13. The goal for today will be the construction of the gravel processing buildings. Since that is the most often used material in the construction industry, it's about time we started making our own. We will also finish setting up the fuel distribution, which means a temporary pause in our exports, since we need to fill up the storage tank in Kirkhamov, but we will only go for a 10% threshold, so it won't take too long. And lastly, as you might have seen on the thumbnail, we will also build a small football pitch in the city. Nothing major, but I really wanted to fill in that big empty area behind the T-shaped housing project. As I mentioned in the last episode, I forgot to name the steel mill, but I did it right after OBS stopped recording. So from now on, it shall be named Setsumograd. Next, it has been brought to my attention that only one of the track layers are purchasable in disassembled form, which is a prerequisite for road transport. So today will also include the first rail tracks being built. But before we move it to the rail CO, we need to sort out the materials for it. And since the Kirkhamov distribution office is completely full of assignments, it's about time we gave the fuel duty to the dedicated offices. For now, we will only use one of the three, since that is all we really need. Once that's full, we can move on to the next. After these assignments, we just need to go through the list in the original DO, and get rid of the duplicates. Having the option to quickly zoom in on the different buildings is a really big help. For now, I decided to leave the city out of this, but later, I will do those too. With assignment slots now available to use, we can add the rail CO to the rest, so our trucks can start filling it up. Also, the current list of buildings is a bit messy in that distribution office, so I will need to look into optimizing it. It does the job just fine like this, but it's also a bit all over the place. And we have fuel coming into that local storage tank. 10% will be more than enough for now. We only really need to increase that cap once we move on to using trains. Plus I didn't want to stop exporting for too long. Speaking of trains, we can finally go and pick up the track layer from the customs house. One of the trucks from the COs will be fine for the job. While I was busy admiring the scenery, we ran out of money, and stopped importing electricity. It's time for another loan. We can also use it to repay some of the older ones. We will do this a couple more times in this episode, and by the end, we are going to have 3 big outstanding loans, instead of a lot of smaller ones. In the meantime, the track layer has been delivered. And since the office is in walking distance from the closest apartment building, we are ready to get going. But before we do that, we need to make sure we are as efficient as possible with this construction. So, only one side of the tracks will be built for now. Once we reach the customs house, we can buy the EDK track layer, which should make quick work of the rest of the network. Alright, that should do it. Release the beast. Well, not much of a beast. But it will get the job done, even if a bit slowly. Which might be better for us. The EDK would chew through the materials in the office in minutes. This little guy is much more calm, so it won't bankrupt us. Now that we have fuel stored in Kirkimov, we should just go ahead and buy the rest of the trucks for the fuel distributor. Also, let's sort out the deliveries between these three. The leftmost one will just use the local gas station, that's not really a problem. The other two can fuel each other, so they will be a bit more efficient. In the future, we might want to use that unpowered one for local refueling, the other two can be used for longer deliveries. This might look like a super slow pace for a track layer, but it really adds up over time. We will check on this guy from time to time, and it will make good progress, don't you worry. I also made sure that every single piece of track was already the correct version, with concrete foundations. As for this road, it takes a while, but we will manage to finish this whole thing today. Paving is the least of our worries. After this, we still need to deliver a lot of steel, electric components and some more gravel to build the streetlights themselves. Next up, the gravel. We have almost everything sorted, but we will need to deal with the fuel. As I've said, one of the free refill stations will be perfect for this. It doesn't require power, and we only need to supply one building, instead of all three. I was a bit confused why I couldn't build the quarries at first, but then I remembered that we have a bus stop in the way, so that one need to be built first. Thankfully, the processing plant was before it, so that one could begin construction right away. We will also need to build the aggregate storage, as well as the truck loading station. Power wouldn't hurt either. Here, I decided to just give every possible fuel delivery job to the dedicated office. No reason not to. Also, due to that small power outage earlier, there are a couple small complaints from the citizenry, mostly about sports and culture, but those will go away quickly. This little guy seemed very slow now, because it is building the first segment right out the gate. The track layers slow down once they reach their work sites. Once the segments get built one by one, the machine will be able to move more quickly. This might be a good reason to break the network up into smaller segments with nodes. But I don't think I will. It gets the job done, and we are not in a hurry. If all goes well, we should be able to reach the customs house in about 4 or 5 episodes, and then the EDK will be lightning fast. Anyways, the materials for the streetlights are being delivered right now. It won't be long before we can finish this long segment. Yeah, we're getting there. Okay, with the bus stop done, we can start building the rest of the gravel buildings. That about does it for the buildings. We still need the vehicles though. Once these are all done, we can buy the excavators, as well as the dumpers, but that's for a bit later. Hey, look! Over 500 highly educated citizens. Good times. Before you ask, no, I don't want to move the rail construction office closer to the border. It would be a temporary setup, and the amount of work required to sort out the materials, workers, and all that jazz for it is just not worth it. Sure, the current setup is slow, but only for a while. I was really tempted to build either a TV or a radio station, but as usual, the vanilla ones are way too big. I think I will end up downloading a small one again. But in the meantime, we can do some more decorating. I got these outdoor sports fields. They are a perfect filler for places that are too big for a monument, and too out of reach for a normal service building. The first placement candidate was between the houses and the small clinic. But then I quickly moved on to the area behind the apartments. Felt like a much better place for it. The football pitch with the running track felt a bit too much. A simple field will be plenty enough. Before we committed to it, I wanted to see if we could squeeze in a footpath, but it turned out to be impossible, no matter what I tried. I was even prepared to risk having a fire destroy the substation, but getting rid of the road wasn't enough. As a result, this will be only reachable by the 2 apartment blocks right next to it. Once it's all built, it will be completely isolated from the rest of the city. Might as well make the surrounding area into a small walking park, so a footpath ring will go around the pitch. Let's connect it to the other buildings, and that's the construction ready to go. We only need to add a temporary dirt footpath, so vehicles can reach it for construction, which can be removed once everything's done. Yeah, I'm willing to risk it burning down for the sake of aesthetics. It's super cheap, and we can just place another service connection if we need to. Plus, once the other side of the 3rd apartment block has other buildings, we can use those as a connection point for emergency vehicles. But for now, this should be okay. Anyways, there's no point not placing the bushes now, so they can start growing. I doubt we will build anything else in this place. And the longest segment of this road is done. We have a couple more near the bridge, but those will be done much more quickly. Anyways, now you can see how much better it looks if the street lights are all in the middle. Time to consolidate our loans. I'm really not happy how close we are to the maximum, but we still have some wiggle room. Two fires so close to each other. I think this was the fastest I've ever seen. And we finally managed to finish that long first rail segment. Things should be a little more quick from now on. Not much, just a little. I think the biggest hurdles we need to overcome are the bridges. Those will require quite a few round trips for this small guy to finish. The 3 quarries are done. Let's sort out the fuel, and then we can buy the excavators. That should do it. Two fuel deliveries managed to fill this station up completely. Hopefully it's enough for this job. Even the truck loading is done. Won't be long, and we will have homemade gravel we can use. Now that the main street is close to being done, might as well place the concrete texture as the median. Building in the city is super easy now. People can just walk into these sites and get things done. No need to wait for the buses all the time. And it's completely finished. Not bad for a good day's work. Before we leave it, I wanted to see how it would look if we placed gravel textures around it, but I immediately decided against it. Of course, with this little stunt, the area became unplantable, so we will need to wait for the next episode for this to be green again. But the coastline didn't suffer from this, so we could make that a little nicer. In the end, the streetlight managed to get into this neat arrangement, where one side got placed right between the other, all thanks to that little curve that goes onto the bridge at the end. A happy little accident. And the gravel processing is done. We're almost done. We might as well buy the dumpers that will move the stone to it. We will start with 3, 1 for each quarry. And the storage is also finished. Once the dumpers are moving, we only need to sort out the commuter line. Alright, that's the stone delivery sorted. Of course, it's super slow, that's why we have 3 of them. Now the workers. These old microbuses will be perfect for the job, good thing we didn't sell them. The gravel processing doesn't require too many workers, so they will be enough for these early days. Once the coal buildings nearby are also up and running, then we will replace them with proper buses, of course. Might as well name the permanent lines now. We still need to get rid of 2 lines dealing with foreign workers, but the rest can be given proper names. Also, I just noticed that the truck that moved the track layer is still going. Time to send it back to the construction office in Kirkomov. Once it parks itself, that should get rid of that line, since it was auto-generated. And the 2 remaining lines that are not named are the ones bringing in foreign labor. We will deal with those later. I think it won't hurt if we add 1 more dumper to each quarry. But that's it for now, these things are expensive. Oh yeah, the 2 export lines from the refinery are also unnecessary. That job is done with distribution now, so we can keep some fuel and bitumen for domestic use. Now that we have gravel made in-house, we can tell the Kirkomov distributor to start using it. It's not the most important thing we need to take off the list of imports, but every little counts. Also, as I've said, we need to sort out that distribution office. It still has the fuel deliveries to the city assigned to it, and who knows what else. Something for the next episode. Unfortunately, we cannot add an intersection into the footbridge. That would have solved the connectivity, at least for the pedestrians. I really like how this place looks now. It used to be a big empty hole in the scenery, now it's an integral part of it. Also, since this is a new episode, we can fill in some of the spaces with bushes that we couldn't earlier. I made one last attempt at filling in this place, but as I've said, it will only refresh once the game reloads. I also downloaded these flower beds, but they have no connection points, so they will only become usable once we have a helicopter-based construction yard. But these small kiosks should be good additions to the city. They are pretty tiny, so should be a good filler for small spaces. The cinema feels like the prime location for them. We might need to make the gravel processing's driveway longer somehow. If all 6 of the dumpers are trying to drop off their cargo, it might cause a traffic jam on the main road. Speaking of roads, before we finish for today, I really wanted to sort out the workers for Kirkimov. We had 2 choices. Either move the bus station, disrupting the whole place for a while, or upgrade the roads inside to ones with streetlights. That will give the pedestrians enough range to reach the fire station from the current bus stop. Before we start upgrading the entire place, we really needed to do the fire station driveway. That one was critically important to finish as soon as possible, so we will only move on once that's done. At this point, I was comfortable with adding a couple more segments. The driveway only needed the materials for the streetlights, so the new segments won't interfere with that phase of construction. As for the rest of the roads, we will need to add a side road so traffic isn't disrupted completely. Then I got distracted by the kiosks. I was thinking about adding a gravel texture around them, but I think they look pretty good without it already. Also, the track layer made pretty good progress in 1 hour. I'm not 100% sure, but I really hope that we can get to the customs house in 4 or 5 episodes. It all depends on how fast we can deal with the bridges. There's really no need to have 50 workers to build these kiosks, 10 will be plenty enough. Now, about that service road. As I've said, we will need it, so traffic can keep going while the main road is being upgraded. I will leave the actual bus stop's driveway for last, when there are zero distractions. Well, that is it for today. In the next one, I really want to sort out the Kirkomov distribution, since it's a bit of a mess right now. And once the main roads there are all upgraded, we can finally stop using foreign labor. The track layer should also reach the first bridge, which is going to be the big test for it. That will decide if we can keep the deadline of 4 to 5 episodes or not. I'm still hopeful, but wouldn't be surprised if it will take longer. Anyways, thank you for watching. If you liked the video, then leaving a like and subscribing to the channel just might motivate me to make more. If you are more in the donating mood, you can find a link to my Ko-fi page in the description, where you can buy me a glass of water. I don't really drink coffee. Thank you for your support, and until next time, I will see you later.